Hello, and welcome to Bigfoot at Bedtime, where we take you on peaceful journeys into the heart of Bigfoot country. Here, we transform actual real life encounters into gentle, immersive bedtime stories designed to help you relax, unwind, and drift into a world of calm. Each story begins with real, true accounts of sightings and experiences shared by those who believe they've crossed paths with the elusive Bigfoot. But instead of focusing on the thrill or mystery, we soften the edges a bit and weave these encounters into cozy, nature inspired tales. So if you're ready, close your eyes or keep them open and let your imagination wander. Let the forest sounds wrap around you as we step into tonight's stories. Tonight's stories actually come from the Sierra Nevadas, but in particular on the Pacific Coast Trail. So here we go. A strange encounter in the Sierra Nevadas. We were 3 days into our trip along the Pacific Coast Trail in the Sierra Nevadas. Eager to shake off the cabin fever of winter, it was early spring and patches of snow still clung to the shaded parts of the forest. The air was cold, but the kind that felt refreshing, like it could strip away the stress of civilization with every breath. There were 3 of us, me, Sam, and Derek. We'd been hiking together for years, and while we were all experienced, there was an unspoken rule. Do not split up. The Sierra Nevadas are beautiful, but they do not forgive carelessness. This day started off perfectly. The sun was out, the trail was quiet, and we had the forest to ourselves. We spent the morning joking around, pointing out animal tracks in the snow, and arguing over whose pack weighed the most. It wasn't until mid-afternoon, as we descended into a thickly wooded valley, that things started to feel off. The first sign was silence. No birds, no squirrels, not even the faint buzz of insects. Just the crunch of our boots on the trail and the occasional creak of trees swaying in the wind. "You guys hear that?" Sam asked, breaking the silence. "Hear what?" Derek replied, looking around. "Exactly," Sam said. "It's way too quiet." We all stopped and listened, and for the first time, I noticed it too. The kind of silence that makes hair on the back of your neck stand up. We brushed it off, probably a mountain lion or some other type of predator nearby, spooking the wildlife. But as we pushed on, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. It wasn't long before we heard it, the sound of something heavy moving through the trees off to our left. At first, we thought it might be a deer or something, but then came the rocks. The first one wasn't much bigger than a golf ball, and it landed just a few feet in front of us. "What the hell?" Derek muttered, scanning the woods. "You see anything?" We all stopped, staring into the dense underbrush. Sam picked up the rock and held it like a weapon, which made me laugh nervously. "Relax," I said, trying to break the tension. Probably just some kid or other hikers messing with us. But then another rock came flying, this one larger, and it landed closer. Too close. "All right, that's not funny," Derek yelled, his voice echoing through the trees. No response. And then we saw it, or part of it. A massive, shadowy figure moved between the trees about 50 yards away, so fast it was like trying to track a ghost. "What the hell was that?" Sam whispered, gripping the rock of his hand like it could actually help him. We stood there, frozen, until the figure moved again, stepping into a small clearing. My heart sank. It was enormous, easily 8 feet tall, covered in dark, shaggy hair that seemed to glisten in the fading sunlight. Its arms hung low, past its knees, and its chest was barrel-like. heaving with deep breaths. But its face was the most unnerving part. It was like looking at something caught between a human and maybe an animal, intelligent but wild. None of us spoke. I don't think we even breathed. Then it bent down, picked up another rock, and threw it. Not at us, but just to the side of where we stood. Is it warning us? Sam muttered under his breath. We did not wait for a second warning. Keeping our movements slow and deliberate, we backed off the trail, careful not to make any sudden movements. The thing watched us the entire time, its dark eyes tracking our every step. Once we were far enough away, we bolted. None of us said a word as we ran, the adrenaline drowning out the ache in our legs and the weight of our packs. We didn't stop until we reached a clearing several miles away where we set up camp before dark, just in case. That night, as we sat around the fire, nobody cracked a single joke. Nobody brought up what we'd seen. Not directly, anyway. You think anyone would believe us? Derek finally asked, breaking the silence. Sam shook his head. Probably not, and honestly, I don't want to talk about it. We all nodded in agreement. Whatever it was, it didn't want us there, and we had no intention of going back. The next day, we took a detour that, added some miles to our route just to avoid that stretch of trail. Even now, when we get together to hike, we don't talk about what happened in those woods. Some things we've decided are better left unspoken. A chilling encounter on the Pacific Crest Trail. It was late spring, and the Sierra Nevadas were finally waking up from their long winter slumber. I'd been hiking the PCT for a week, enjoying the crisp air and the solitude that came with the season. Most thru hikers really hadn't started yet, so it just seemed to be me and the wilderness. The occasional patches of stubborn snow dotted the trail, but thaw was well underway. That day, the trail took me deep into a dense forest. Towering pines and firs lined the path, their needles glistening with morning dew. The only sounds were my boots crunching against the damp soil and the occasional chatter of birds overhead. I remember thinking how peaceful it was, how isolated. Around mid-afternoon, I noticed something strange. The forest had gone eerily quiet. The bird song stopped, and even the rustle of the wind through the trees seemed muted. I brushed it off, chalking it up to my imagination, or maybe something spooking the wildlife. But a nagging feeling crept up my spine as I pressed on. Then I heard it, a sharp thunk behind me. I turned, half expecting to see a tree branch tumbling to the ground. But there was nothing there, just the forest staring back at me. I shook my head and kept walking, only for it to happen again. This time, off to my right, a rock about the size of my fist skirted across the trail in front of me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small against the vastness of the woods. No answer. I scanned the tree line, my eyes darting from shadow to shadow, but I saw nothing. A chill settled over me despite the warmth of the day. My gut told me something or someone was out there. Another rock came flying, this one landing closer, almost deliberate. It didn't seem random. It felt like a message. "Who's there?" I yelled, trying to sound braver than I felt. And then I saw it. At first, it was just a dark shape moving between the trees, massive and impossibly fast. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest as my mind tried to make sense of what I was seeing. It stepped into a small clearing about 30 yards away, and that's when I got a good look. It was tall, easily over 7 feet, with broad shoulders and thick, muscular limbs. Its body was covered in dark, matted hair, and its face was almost human, but not quite. Its eyes, deep set and dark, locked onto mine, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. I don't know how long we stood there, seconds, minutes. Time seemed to stretch. Then, with a guttural sound that rumbled through the forest, or it seemed, it bent down and picked up a pine cone and hurled it not at me, but near me. The message was clear: go away. I didn't need to be told twice. I slowly backed away, my hand raised in what I hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Once I was out of the clearing, I turned and ran, my pack bouncing against my back as I sprinted down the trail. I didn't stop until it seemed like I was miles away, my lungs burning and my legs trembling beneath me. When I finally dared to look back, there was nothing there, just the forest, quiet and indifferent as ever. To this day, I'm really not sure what I saw. Was it Bigfoot? Some primal part of me says yes. Whatever it wanted to be left alone, and I was more than happy to oblige. I still hike, but I do avoid that stretch of the Pacific Crest Trail since some places I've learned aren't meant to be disturbed. Okay, well, that is it for tonight's stories. If you have a Bigfoot encounter or experience that you don't mind me tweaking, enhancing into a short story form, you can email it to me at ca.bigfootstories@gmail.com. All right, have a wonderful evening and catch you on the next one.